Hi there and welcome. Nick here, talking to you today a little bit about my program called Journey of the 12 Moons. It's a totally unique program that blends Yoga Nidra with new moon reflective work, astrology, and metaphysical healing process in the body. So why is it a journey and why is it 12 moons? Well, let's start with why it's 12 moons. Every 28 days, we have a new moon come into our orbit. And so we follow this new moon cycle throughout the year, and every new moon, we do a Yoga Nidra practice. There are 12 moons, and that's why it is Journey of the 12 Moons. Why is it a journey though, and what is different about each new moon? So each new moon that comes in has a different planetary influence. And this is where we start to weave in some of the astrology components, so that, for example, in January, the new moon is under the influence of Aquarius in the element of air. So that Yoga Nidra practice and that stretching practice that we do are going to be all around feeling airy, feeling light, and the feeling of movement. As we go through each month, you'll get a different planetary influence. And so the Nidras will be specially adapted to kind of fit in with what is going on in the big universe. And throughout the year, this creates a beautiful pathway that meanders through each of the 5 elements and each of the astrology signs that kind of are playing and weaving with the moon as it moves through the cosmos. You may not be familiar with Yoga Nidra practice, and I want to just talk a little bit about what Yoga Nidra is and why it is such a special practice. Perhaps I would personally consider it as a more advanced practice than, let's say, just a regular yoga asana practice, like doing warrior twos or doing sun salutations. So even though on the surface of it, Yoga Nidra looks very simple, you are literally lying down on your back like you would for Shavasana for 30 to 40 minutes. Physically, it's not taxing. But there's so much more going on underneath than just lying down and falling asleep. And in fact, what we're trying to do in Yoga Nidra is take you to a place that is what we would call like a twilight zone. So it's a 7-part process that leads you from this kind of conscious place where you're sitting and listening and doing into what we call the hypnagogic state, or I like to think of it like a twilight zone. It's the place that you would go to when you go to sleep. But normally when we're going to sleep, we move through it very quickly. We go into sleep state. And so we miss this portal that is like almost like a dream-like place. In Yoga Nidra, the practice is systematically taking you to that place and holding you there, suspended. You are in the bridge between being unconscious and conscious. And this is like cracking open the doors of the subconscious, the place of memories that can't quite be accessed, but are still running in the back like an old app. If you like, I sometimes think of it as when we go for, let's say, surgery, right? We go into general anesthetic. General anesthetic is a place where we retract everything out of the body so the body can no longer feel, and it's in a very objective, almost a neutral state. We're doing the same with Yoga Nidra. And you might ask, well, what are the benefits? Why would we want to take ourselves into this hovering, almost anesthesia place? Well, let me talk a little bit about where trauma comes from, where we get caught up in our day-to-day living, and how the yogis understood the Yoga Nidra practice as a way of taking us kind of backwards to do healing work and to release things that are, like, again, the apps that are running in the back that are influencing our behaviors. So here I am, a body. As I came out into the world, I have 5 senses. Those 5 senses are recording devices, and they literally got pressed play the moment that you came out and took your first breath. Every experience that I have ever had in my life has been recorded either visually and through my auditory sense, through taste, through smell, through touch. And in a day-to-day normal lived experience, most of the time it's just recorded. It's like just a Zoom call, right? It's just recorded and stored, Nothing dramatic is happening. However, we are human and stress does happen to us. It could range from small daily stresses into huge, very unusual traumatic experiences. But what it does to these recordings, if you imagine like you're under general anesthetic and you're just moving through here, when we hit some kind of stress or some perceived experience of stress, the recording is like, woo, magnified. It creates a blip in the recording of being a human being. Those recordings, those areas where we've had blips, where the body or the sensory information has given some kind of danger signal, are moved through, right? We're in the recording, we move through life. The blips are recorded. And just like a tree that gathers rings around it, right? And the rings are the experience of the tree having particular weather conditions or soil conditions. In the same way, we can be holding these blips, these places that we couldn't process, that are danger or recorded as kind of danger zones in our bodies, and it's not a physical, it doesn't lie in a particular organ. So how can we get back to release some of those places that were scary in that moment, but now are completely benign? Well, if we were to say, let's try to go back to the recording, and this is what therapy does, right? Therapy in its traditional sense will try to take you back into the memory into the recording that happened at the moment of some kind of crisis, whether it was a relationship breakup or, finding out some news or some kind of accident, right? But the catch here is this: if the body experienced it and has a recording, the body, by its own safety mechanism, will not want to go back into that place. It's like if you have a bad experience in a restaurant, why would you want to go back and eat the food at the restaurant again, right? We're too smart, we're too intelligent. So instead, what we do in Yoga Nidra is we are allowing our body to come to this very open place between conscious and unconscious, where the twilight is open. We're in this kind of dream state, but conscious enough. And you are in this flatline place being held and allowing your body to run various situations through it. Whether those are visualizations or there may be emotional experiences, and the body is very still, so there's no actual physical response happening. It means it's a very safe way, because your body will only come up with the thing that you really need to resolve in that moment. No more, no less. Nobody is pushing you to do it. And because you're in this hypnagogic state, you're not even kind of aware of it happening. It's really what I would call like psychic surgery. That's just one reason why Yoga Nidra is such a profound and healing practice. And there are many reasons why you might be doing it even without any of the trauma. Maybe you are just really tired, and this place where you can really de-stress and allow the body's system to kind of reboot itself is what you're seeking for in the new year or in the year. Maybe you are looking to explore a little bit more of your psychic abilities, your intuition, your ability to go beyond the mind. Again, another great reason to be on the journey of the 12 moons. After a practice, what should you expect? Well, it's a little bit like when you wash your hair. It's not it's a very subtle feeling of lightness. It's like you wash your hair and it's all of a sudden you're like, oh, my head, it feels just so much lighter. After a Yoga Nidra practice, you might not be able to say like why you feel so much better because it's so in the unconscious. When you do a physical yoga practice, like an asana practice, it's obvious. You've stretched something out, you've really pulled tissues and all the rest of it, you've opened joints. Yoga Nidra is associated with more yin. So that's again another reason why doing it under the auspices of the new moon energy, the soft, the feminine, the subtle is appropriate. The changes or the aha moments that will come as a result of doing a regular Yoga Nidra practice are almost sometimes so subtle that you don't even know that they came as a release from your Yoga Nidra. And that is okay. My job as a facilitator of this journey is to give you some opportunities to reflect and kind of create what we call in yoga a bhav meaning a vibration, a contemplation around something. So as you go into the Nidra practice, I'll be talking about the astrological influence that is in the moment in the sky and how that relates to physical parts of the body. I'll speak a little bit more about that in another video because it's such a fascinating topic about how astrology and the metaphysical part can go in tandem and hand in hand with the lunar cycle. I really recommend you checking out the sample class that I've put into the program. It's free, it's for you to do. It's a Yoga Nidra that is around light and bringing light and healing into your body. If you like it, then please consider coming on the journey of the 12 moons with me. Although you can join anytime, it is obviously the best to join at the beginning of the journey in January. So I encourage you to click on the link below, check out my journey of the 12 moons, and maybe join me in the moonlight this year. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to contact me directly. There's so much more in this journey, not just the practices. There's other videos, tutorials, discussions, community, and all things around intuition, moon astrology, and metaphysical. Thank you for listening, and I'm signing off now. Hari Om, Om Tat Sat. Namaste.